Welcome to Today in Putnam County, hosted by Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter, the show that takes a look at the events and what's happening all around Putnam County, as well as interviews with local, community, and business leaders. And now, sharing his insights and experience, here's Today in Putnam County with County Mayor Randy Porter.
Thanks for joining us this week. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter, and it's Today in Putnam County. My show this week, it's about Vanderbilt LifeFlight. It's a life-saving helicopter service that's here in Putnam County, and I've got two guests here that are a very big part of that, Terry Foutch and Adam McCann. Guys, thanks for being on the show this week and talking about all the great things that Vanderbilt does for us.
Thank you for having us.
So for folks that may not know, I think most people know about the helicopter service and everything, but Vanderbilt's been in the business of providing emergency care through the helicopter service for, y'all celebrate, 40 years last year?
Started in the summer of 1984.
I remember that first flight. I mean, I
do, and I was
telling my age, but you do too.
I was in paramedic school, and Dr. John Morris, who was the program champion, first trauma surgeon at Vanderbilt, and this is before trauma centers were designated in Tennessee. And I asked him about Vanderbilt LifeFlight and why we needed a helicopter. He said, because it brings people like me to Vanderbilt. And so they built a system around the trauma, and the helicopter was a big part of that.
You know, it wasn't back before Vanderbilt started. We had tiki masts where you had the military. If you could get one of those, bring in, but you had to get on the helicopter with them. The paramedic did locally and fly down. And then you had to figure out a way to get back. And then you had Mike Dover. Do you remember Mike Dover, THP?
State trooper and a Bell 206, and
unbelievable guy.
Grabbed whatever stuff you could get off your ambulance and get in with him and
go.
Hope for the best.
I flew a lot of flights with him before Vanderbilt came into existence, and we were flying people to Nashville, and it was always the worst of the worst if you were calling him to take it. And then Vanderbilt came up. I was thinking, reminiscing as I was writing up some notes for the show, used to basically had about 3 primary hospitals in Nashville that we transferred patients to in Cookville. You had St. Thomas. Pretty much anything heart was going to go to St. Thomas. You had Vanderbilt, anything trauma, pediatric, babies, all that kind of stuff went there. And then you had Baptist. You got all the rest of the stuff that couldn't be taken care of here. And but that's all changed, hasn't it?
It has changed a bit, and Erlanger got into the picture. They put a helicopter up here some time ago, and referral pattern for 100 years was from the Upper Cumberland to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And if you needed what they called a specialist back in the day, you went to Vanderbilt, and that was the referral pattern. There's been some change in that, and then the HCA has gotten in on it, and so they're reaching out with their services. But I think the important thing is to remember Vanderbilt's been serving this community for more than 100 years.
Yeah, and you've been in the first helicopter, and then, of course, Erlanger came about, UT Knoxville with theirs. You've had several hospitals come out with helicopter services and everything, which has totally changed emergency care in the state of Tennessee for sure, and definitely for here. We got 2 helicopters sitting here most of the time, unless they're out on a call, ready to serve the patients here in Putnam County. Of course, Erlanger's at the airport. Y'all have a base out here on South Jefferson. A lot of people may not know unless you live in that area and see you coming in and out, Adam.
We often hear that, and we always invite people. I know you have to have your license renewed at least every 8 years, some 4. And we're right next to that driver's license station there, right here in the city. We really appreciate this Cookeville Regional Medical Center inviting us up here to the plateau to be in Cookeville with you and being part of y'all's wonderful healthcare system.
So, the helicopter services really changed the way EMS operates here, because before, if you were calling for a helicopter, like I said, Tiki Mass, THP, all those, and then even in the early years when y'all were just had the Nashville base, you were having to wait 30, 45 minutes for the helicopter to get here. Well, then you had to kind of guesstimate, okay, how far can I make it in the ground ambulance? By the time the air ambulance would get here, and a lot of that depending on the seriousness of the severity of the patient. But now it's totally changed because you're sitting out here on South Jefferson, and we get a bad call somewhere in 5 or 10 minutes. You're lifted and can be on the scene a lot of times before the paramedics can really get the patient stable. I mean, it's totally changed the way that patient care happens because from scene to Vanderbilt, not going to Cooper Regional and then to Vanderbilt, but actually just flying from the scene.
Well, I think the emphasis early on and the impetus for getting a helicopter service started was trauma, and the big paper on the golden hour, and the statistics that if you wait longer than an hour from the time of your injury until the time you get to a major trauma center, mortality rates started going way up.
Yeah.
And we've gotten pretty good at the trauma, and as the care in general has, more stroke was a big thing. When you and I started as paramedics back in the day, we'd start an IV on them, bring them to the hospital.
Yeah.
They'd put them on the floor and they'd let them sit and see how long and how bad they got.
Bad it got, yeah.
Today, those are emergency scene calls too. And so we pick those people up and immediately take them to a primary stroke center. They do a vascular intervention or give a clot-busting drug, open that brain right back up, and a lot of times with no residual.
A lot of those folks walk out with no disabilities from that stroke, which is amazing.
No disability, which 20, 30 years ago would have been a devastating injury.
Yeah, unheard of back then. We're talking with Terry Foutch and Adam McCann. They're with Vanderbilt LifeFlight. Great service that they provide here in Putnam County and all across the state. So guys, when you start looking at the history of Vanderbilt and the LifeFlight service, it kind of started out slow. You had the one helicopter, but the way that it has expanded out into all these different places that you've got helicopters now. I mean, I was looking 9 helicopters, even got an airplane, and then it went into ground service too that we'll talk about a little later. But when you start looking 8 air bases in Sumner County, Coffee County, Montgomery County, Rutherford County, Murray County, Henry County, Putnam County, and Gibson County.
Absolutely.
That's amazing, isn't it?
We're servicing the entire state of Tennessee we're far west is Humboldt, and most folks don't know where Humboldt is, but it's way out there, and they had some effect from the storms last night.
Yeah.
And as far east as
our
Cookville.
Prayers go out to them.
And we very frequently reach from here and go to the Knoxville hospitals and take specialty people back to Vanderbilt or another Nashville hospital that they have that specialty ability to care for those patients.
That's a huge undertaking, isn't it, Adam, to have that many bases and that many helicopters, that many crews?
It is. It's a huge undertaking, and one of the things maybe not even listed, recently we moved our airplane, or what we refer to as our fixed wing, to Lebanon. And while we try to cover the entire state of Tennessee, we also try to expand our services further to different states to get patients to either back to us or to a specialty care that they need across the country. So we really try to be comprehensive in our approach, where we have a ground element that helps, and of course the 8 rotor wings. You said 9 helicopters. We do have 9. One's a spare.
One's a backup,
that's
right? Yeah.
And our fixed wing aircraft, like we could be in Burlington, Vermont tomorrow, or we could be in Miami, Florida, trying to bring the highest level of care we can to patients in need.
Well, and the airplane is a big deal. I'll never forget, I was a young paramedic, maybe been out of school a couple of years, and we got a child that had pulled a pot of boiling water over on him off of the stove, and severe burns to his body. And one of the local pilots here agreed, and we flew him to Cincinnati, I guess, to the Children's Hospital or the Shriners Hospital, wherever that's at. That seemed like that was the longest flight ever, because we were in a little single-engine plane, and I'm trying to take care of the child, and I didn't think we'd ever get there. Now you've got your plane down in Lebanon, and I mean it's a lot faster and And of course, Vanderbilt's got a great burn center now that that child would have never went anywhere else probably if in today's society.
Vanderbilt's reach is essentially nationwide, and particularly in the southeast, of course. And we're doing things at Vanderbilt, of course, that they're not doing other places, particularly pediatric heart, adult heart. The ECMO was a big deal during the COVID, and we still do that a lot. Number one transplant center in the area for cardiac transplants, and just a big deal. So it's important that we serve the whole region.
And y'all do a great job with it. We'll take a break. You're listening to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter, talking with Adam and Terry. They're with Vanderbilt LifeFlight. They provide a great service with the helicopter service here in Putnam County. We're going to talk a lot more about some of the other services they do and their relationship that they've got with Coolville Regional, which is a really good thing. Stay with us. We'll be back.
And now back to Today in Putnam County, hosted by Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter.
Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great week. Our show today, it's about a great service provided by Vanderbilt. It's called Vanderbilt LifeFlight. It's a medical helicopter that's stationed here in Putnam County, and we're so fortunate to have them. My guests today are Terry Foutch and Adam McCann. Both work with Vanderbilt. You may know Terry, one of our local boys. Terry, I was just thinking, you've been a little bit of everything, you know. You went from paramedic to mayor of all good. You worked in the cath lab at the hospital. You've been Vanderbilt. I mean, you've been a lot of places.
Well, you're trying to say I'm old?
No.
And also general contractor. So
well, that's right. I forgot about the general
build
contractor.
Houses or excavation or whatever the plan calls for today. So
you've had an interesting life.
Try to stay busy.
Well, you definitely have. We were talking about the helicopter service and how great it is and how y'all have expanded across the state with these eight different locations that you've got the helicopter station to get to those locations as soon as possible. But you started something several years ago, not only the helicopter services in the airplane, but now you got ground ambulances that Vanderbilt owns and operates that goes out into the regions and to the state. Talk about that, Adam, and what the purpose of that is.
So the purpose is it started off with just basically kind of a convalescent, more or less, wheelchair van moving patients from one location to another. And the need for care grew. You know, the acuity of the patients was higher that needed to be moved. And it started off in Nashville exclusively, and it's trying to move patients inter-facility from one spot to the next. And recently we had to expand. The need has become large. As most people know, when you start heading back to the west and you make it to Nashville, we as soon as we cross Lebanon, you notice that the traffic starts piling up, and there's just so many folks coming through.
Yeah.
And our capacity stays really high, so we have to move those patients a lot. We have to get people back. We have to get them back home. We have to get them to other facilities, and so we had an expansion of acquiring the Bedford previous CHS hospital, and also which was Tullahoma's Hardin Hospital, and also Wilson County. And we have a lot of patients moving between there. With those expansions, there's more need for movement. And so we opened up a ground base in Tullahoma. We've also opened up another ground base up in Clarksville to help with our partners up at Nova Clarksville. And it's kept growing. Now in Nashville, we run our critical care service line, ground trucks, and they are staffed just like a helicopter would be. Anything that you would have in the helicopter,
you got
including the crew, you have in that ambulance. Yeah. And they can, there's really no level of acuity that they cannot handle, to include up to ECMO, like we were doing in a lot of during COVID especially.
Yeah, and so a lot of these counties, and Putnam County being one of the bigger counties, the biggest in the region. I mean, we have a lot of ambulances and a lot of crews, but you start looking around in a lot of the surrounding counties, and they don't have that many ambulances and crews. And so to transfer a critical patient that's coming from their hospital or maybe from somewhere on a scene to Nashville, that can be a 3, 4, 5 hour trip that ambulance is out of that county and unavailable, and if they don't have very many ambulances, they can get a shortage. You provide a service to where that if that helicopter is already out flying or not able to fly due to weather, you send one of your critical care trucks up and transfer that patient just like the helicopter would, right?
We absolutely do. And I think Terry, we take it a step further with that. From our base level, if there's a need immediately in the community, and helicopters can't always fly, we're regulated by the FAA and we have weather minimums, but we've supplied every one of our bases with a critical care response car. And these guys at their base, they're happy to hop in and come help our communities when they need it. It's that, like you said, it can really tax the system when you have, a unit out for 4 or 5 hours. You did hit a great note. You do a great job in helping Putnam County, ensuring that their staff have plenty of folks to.
It's key.
Yeah.
We go back to today. Terry, you worked in the cath lab at the hospital. Yes. That was the greatest thing probably ever happened to Putnam County was getting that heart program, because we were transferring by ambulance 7 heart patients a day every day. Now, you may run 10 in one day and 6 the next or something, but we were averaging 7 a day, 7 days a week of taking heart patients to Nashville, and most of them to get cath.
Right.
And that was a huge deal when we got the 2 cardiologists come back to Cookeville. Y'all opened the cath lab up. Now they're doing open heart surgeries and stuff here. Made a huge difference, but that was really taxing our system back then of all those ambulances, backwards and forwards to Nashville, still being able to try to cover your county. And I know that y'all have made a huge difference with a lot of counties in that it leaves their personnel free to cover their county and run the 911 calls in the county while you're taking those critical care patients back.
It taxes the system, these transfers from hospitals, and the smaller your hospital, the fewer specialty resources you have available, the more likely you are to have to transport those patients. And I used to work at Smith County, and we knew Monday and Friday was transport day, and they wouldn't hold people over the weekends. They were moving them.
Yep.
Monday was, we just came in and they got to go. Sick people have always got to go. And, the primary mission of your local ambulance service is the 911 response, that I'm here for an emergency.
Right.
And very oftentimes those transfers get pushed down the hill because of the 911. And many of these counties have got 2, 3 ambulances on and taken 1/3 of their ambulance out of service. And, hey, nothing says that they're not going to send another one right behind that one.
Yeah.
And
or they're not going to have 2 or 3 emergency calls in a row.
Correct. Or one bad car wreck that needs all their ambulances and have to bring other ambulances from other counties. So having those resources out in the community is an important partnership. And we like to say we're a partnership with our local EMS. A lot of folks say, well, are you competition with that local EMS? No, we're a partnership. We're providing a service that sometimes taxes the system.
Well, one thing, and I don't know how far it goes back, but your angel units coming in getting the little babies. I mean, I know I see them coming through Cookeville all the time. That's been a huge, huge deal changer too, hadn't it? I mean, I think back before that, and there's probably some babies that may not have made it back in the day before y'all started that service to be able to come up and take care of those babies and then transport them.
There was a young physician named Dr. Stallman. Her name's on a building in campus. I'll tell you how important she was. But she and the biomedical engineer there at Vanderbilt came up with this big idea, her idea, and he made it happen. Hey, what if I had a van and I could go out and get these babies? So the first neonatal transport unit in the country, which is a big deal when you think about it. You think they're pretty commonplace now, but the first in the country started there at Vanderbilt with Dr. Stallman.
That's amazing.
And it continued, and there's a lot of folks here today that had advantage of the Angel Transport Unit
that probably would have
made it to Nashville, because before that, you were getting in the back of a funeral home car and riding with somebody that had no medical treatment, or maybe a nurse would go.
Yeah.
And now you're bringing advanced practice providers, physicians,
to the hospital,
to the bedside many times before delivery.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It's done I think about that all the time, and that was kind of the beginning of what has evolved today with Vanderbilt, with all the service you're providing, started with that Angel Unit. Hey, you're listening to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. We got to take a break. We're talking with Terry Foutch and Adam McCann. They work for Vanderbilt LifeFlight, and they provide us a great service here in Putnam County by having a helicopter stationed in Putnam County to respond to our critical patients that we need flown to the trauma centers. We're going to talk more with them. Stay with us.
And now back to Today in Putnam County, hosted by Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter.
Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great week. Our show this week, it's about Vanderbilt LifeFlight and the great service that they provide to Putnam County. We actually have a helicopter stationed here in Putnam County on South Jefferson, and they respond with our local EMS agency and make critical transfers to Nashville, back to Vanderbilt, or where the patient needs to be taken to trauma centers and so forth. And my guests this week are Terry Foutch and Adam McCann, both employed with Vanderbilt LifeFlight. Terry and I go back, we ain't going to say how long, Terry will. Terry was the mayor of Allgood, and we've worked together for years and years and years and years. So we're talking about the service they provide. We've been going through some of that, Terry, but the one that's etched in our minds forever was the tornado of 2020. We never forget that. We lost 19 lives here, but we had over 100 people injured in that tornado. Vanderbilt LifeFlight played a big part in that response that day. Talk about that from your side.
You know, it's a bit hard for us all to talk about this without getting emotional.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you said, we'll remember it because we felt it.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock the morning following the tornado, and I get up and my power's out. Of course, phone's out, and the cell phone's not working right. And as I walk through the living room, ding, 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 and I've gotten multiple notifications from my supervisor, Tim Hurst. And I called, said, "What's up?" And he said, "We've been hit by a tornado." I said, "Well, where you need me?" And this was like 5 o'clock, and he said, "Come to Cookville Regional." So by the time I got there at Cookville Regional, this happened, I don't know what, 1 o'clock?
Yeah, almost 1:47.
Yeah, so I'm behind, right? I'm 3 hours behind. I pull up. Tim Hurst is a nurse practitioner, and many of our nurses are advanced practice nurse practitioners, was standing in the ambulance bay coordinating the transport sector, getting those folks out of Cookville Regional, figuring out where they're going to go, making those contacts, accepting patients into Vanderbilt. Instead of making that phone call to Vanderbilt, he was accepting the patient. I'm accepting, go. He was managing the ambulances. Our critical care and ALS ambulance directors were both here. I go in the emergency room, and Dr. Russ, he's one of our senior vice presidents, and our immediate LifeFlight medical director was there seeing patients. Vanderbilt had physicians on the ground before I got up out of bed.
Yeah.
What do you need me to do? I need you to take a patient. Here's an ALS ambulance. Get in and go. And took a patient that was paralyzed to Erlanger, and I did my assessment and got them loaded, and I said, "Where's my other one?" And, "What do you mean, where's your other one?" I said, "Well, there's 2 beds on this ambulance. Give me another one."
Yeah.
So I took a kid that was seriously injured, and we went to Erlanger.
Yeah. Well, the interstate was blocked.
Interstate was
going
blocked.
west. You couldn't go to Nashville. It was shut down.
Couldn't fly till later on in the morning, and once the helicopters released and we could fly, then we started moving people, and a pretty remarkable system. But Tim and his partner were on duty that night, and they left our base and were physically on the ground in the triage center on the scene.
It was
It was an all hands on deck, and this is the teamwork that I'm talking about, and the service that we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's everybody working together, and y'all were a huge part of that. It was a terrible day. Never forget it. But the other thing that I'll never forget is how everybody came together and worked together. We talk about that all the time, how great everything is here with elected officials and everybody working together for the betterment. It was proven that drops down into the community too, because over that day and over the next few days, we had thousands of people turned out here to help. They were donating millions of dollars to come in to help, food, clothing, supplies, I mean,
Even a president on the ground.
even the president on the ground. I mean, it was a terrible time, but it was amazing to see our community come together like they did. Terry, let's talk about a typical day as far as a mission goes. A lot of people don't understand, I don't guess, who calls the helicopter when it's needed, how all that works and everything. So walk our viewers through that process of a typical mission on a helicopter.
Well, and I'd like to start bigger than that. I'd
Okay.
like to start with our infrastructure. People say, well, you've got a helicopter out there, and when I get a helicopter bill, it costs tens of thousands of dollars. And why is that? And the first thing we say is most people out of pocket by the time your insurance is done with it is $1,000 or so.
Yeah.
There's that. But why does it cost so much? Well, we're in a $6-7 million aircraft.
Yeah.
Each of these aircraft has 2 mechanics assigned to it, full-time guys. Each of our bases has 4 pilots. We've got 10 to 12 nurses and paramedics that staff that thing 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Each one of them.
Each one of
And
them.
you got 8 of them.
And we've got 8 of them. And then we've got a central maintenance facility in Nashville that does heavy maintenance. All those aircraft have hangars that they park in. And we've all got bases that we staff 24/7. So living quarters, kitchens, sleeping quarters, the whole thing. So it's a big deal and a big infrastructure. Also got a major dispatch center that has to take the calls and hand them out and decide where we're going. Satellite flight following, so they always know where we are.
Yeah.
So there's a big system that's invisible to the public that takes a while. But to answer your question, we've got 2 basic flights, a scene flight and a hospital transfer. So let's just start with the scene flight because that's the cool one, right? We're eating breakfast, doing our checkoffs, doing our computer training. Golly, we figure like we do more training than we do taking care of sick people. And suddenly the tones go off, which is no different than any EMS in the whole world, right? The tones go off, now we get our stuff, right? So we carry 4 units of blood on every transport. We actually carry 2 units of plasma, 2 units of packed cells. Pack our blood. It's got to stay in a blood cooler just like at the hospital.
Right.
Pack our blood, grab our stuff, go out to the aircraft. Everybody does a walk around on the aircraft, make sure there's nothing out of line, no reason it's not airworthy. Get the aircraft from the hangar outside if it's not pretty weather when we can park it outside. And in that back system, the FAA has dictated that there's an operational control center. So our pilot is checking the weather, pilot's deciding, yes, the weather is flyable. He sends it into the operations control center. Somebody there, a pilot, looks at it and says, yes, I agree with your decision. And then we get authorized and we go. So who called us? Most likely a first responder or a paramedic or EMT on the scene shows up on the scene. And it may even start before that. At dispatch, some citizens called in and said, oh my God, this is bad. And we put the helicopter on standby. Well, what's that do? Well, that cuts out some of that upfront time, some of that stuff we got to do up front.
Ready to roll.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
And gets the operational control center and the blood packing and all that stuff out of the way. And the aircraft's outside ready to hit switches. So our first responders are authorized to call into dispatch and say, I need a helicopter on the scene. I can see this guy's really sick. Our paramedics can do that. And dispatch at the local EMS is the ones that ultimately call our dispatch center and make the arrangements for that transport. Once we're launched, we'll start. It takes a few minutes to start up the helicopter. It's pretty complex and big long checklist. If any of you are familiar with aviation, it takes a minute or two to get the aircraft up. And we're off the ground. We fly by GPS to the scene coordinates that we're given, and our EMS folks on the ground generally will give us a location and or GPS coordinates. Our flight center looks that up, makes sure that GPS coordinates are right. It's plugged into the aircraft, and the aircraft flies itself basically till we get there.
That's what I was amazed. So I did this training thing, I guess, at the hospital here, and I played a stroke patient.
Oh, yeah.
And y'all come and got me and flew me to Vanderbilt, and then I got to ride back. Y'all brought me back, and that's been a few years ago. And the pilot's sitting there, and he's got his iPad on one leg, and he's doing something on his phone. I said, that's amazing. I mean, you're not having to hold on to the stick and everything all the time. It was pretty much flying. It's kind of
He's monitoring systems. Takeoff
Yeah.
and landing are manual manual operations, but just like when you're flying commercial, that pilot doesn't have his hands on the yoke. He's watching the systems and making sure everything's like it's supposed to be.
That's amazing.
And ready to take over if he needs
amazing.
to.
We're running out of time.
That's interesting.
I know. I wish we had more time to go. The one thing I wanted to catch in this last 30 seconds we got is that Vanderbilt has a great relationship with Cookeville Regional and with Putnam County EMS, and I want to say thank you to you guys and to Vanderbilt for that. I mean, y'all are doing great things with Cookeville Regional and the Cancer Center, pediatrics, all that kind of stuff, and without Vanderbilt, Cookeville Regional would not be the hospital that it is today, and we would not have the success that we have with emergency patients and critical patients was it not for Vanderbilt. And I want to thank y'all for what y'all
We
do.
really appreciate the opportunity to be partners with you guys. That it is it's humbling for us to be able to be called into your community to help and assist with patients and care. Ultimately, we want the best for everyone. So we are thankful to Cookeville for that and Putnam County.
We're blessed to have a helicopter location here in Cookeville. That's a major thing, and we appreciate what y'all do. And your dedication that both of you have to emergency care. And Adam, I haven't known you as long as I have this guy, but Terry, you've been in it almost as long as I have, and it's definitely a calling to be in it, and I appreciate what you do.
All right, well, thank you.
That's our show for this week. Hope you join us every week for Today in Putnam County as we interview different guests and bring you topics of interest that we hope that you enjoy. As I always say at the end of the show, have a great week, and may God continue to bless Putnam County.
You've been listening to Today in Putnam County, hosted by Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter.